Good morning.
Good morning.
We're kind of being a little quiet this morning because Elavie is going to be home with a fever.
I gave her the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, you're not feeling well. So when you start to come on, let us know if you can hear us, okay? Because we're usually kind of like talking, obviously, a lot louder.
Move the microphone closer.
Yeah, the poor thing. Like yesterday, I thought, oh man, I had this call on my heart yesterday to like
Pick her up early.
pick her up early and be more present with her for whatever reason, and I just could not wait to get with her. And when I picked her up, she just looked so sick and she was hot. And so then I just brought her home and we snuggled and watched movies and played Barbies. Poor thing. So good morning, Terry. Good morning, Bob. Good morning, Jen. Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, David. It's good to see you guys. It's Wednesday. What are you looking for, babe?
That other microphone for the Instagram.
All right. So it's great to see you guys. And this morning, there's something on my mind because I was again listening to part 2 of this podcast, this Rise Rachel Hollis podcast with the CEO of It Cosmetics. And I was like, wow, this is so fascinating. It's really about insecurity is what we're going to talk about today, right? How do you overcome your insecurities? And so these 2 women were talking, and somehow the conversation turned, I was telling you this morning, turned to body image. And it's like, here's this woman, her company's worth $1 billion, and she posts all this stuff on her Instagram, and her most asked question on Instagram is, how did you lose the weight? And then Rachel said, yeah, she has this conference, this Rise conference, and like there's where these women take a stand for one another and they share their secrets of what they've been through and they stand up for each other. And there's everything from I've been raped to I've been addicted to drugs, you name it. But one of the questions is, I hate my body. And 98% of the room of 700 women stood up. That was their biggest pain point. So we were talking about, for women, it's body image usually.
And for men, oftentimes it's status, it's money, it's finances, it's, and testament to the fact is, well, first of all, the whole luxury industry, but also the idea that, there's big businesses of basically renting like luxury cars. So, you can look like you've got that Lamborghini or whatever. And it's because oftentimes men use the barometer of their confidence as to how it looks financially. And they, and one of the things we talk about, here's what's interesting. We talk about, you do confidence, right? Everyone has it. And the only, fortunately, is sometimes it's confidence in reverse, that we're confident we will look bad, or we're confident we're poor, or we're confident something of that nature. So what some people do is we'll spend so much time externally looking more affluent, externally looking, that it actually implodes on itself. And that's where a lot of the work we do for both men and women is really ultimately to access that confidence, that certainty, to overcome the insecurity. But it's always going to be there. You can't avoid that creeping up at times.
I have wrestled with my weight basically my entire life. It's been something, so for me, that's an issue that I can say, yeah, I can totally relate to that insecurity. And obviously I talk about it all the time, just wrestling with binge eating and back and forth, but my weight has stopped me from doing a lot of things I want to do, feeling as confident when I'm speaking, or feeling like I want to get in a swimsuit and get out there, or feeling like, oh, what are people looking at me or thinking of me because I'm not where I want to be. Meanwhile, I have everything else I need, right? I've got the brain, I've got the talent, I have all that other stuff, but my weight has been a factor. Like when I've stood up to speak to 1,000 people in a room full of leaders, and I'm the expert, and I'm wondering, do I look all right sometimes? Seriously, that's like, how do we fix that, right? How do we stop doing that? Because if we're insecure about our looks or our pocketbook or all those other things, it really is going to hold us back from sharing what we need to share in the world, or going after the things that we really want to go after. And that's real, right? For some people, it's crippling. I know for me, it has been crippling in my life.
And that's what really ultimately the dance is how do we navigate that? right? How do we figure out a
Terry
way?
saying her weight is a huge issue for her.
And now, by the way,
how does it hold you back? Write in the comments. I want to know, or send me a message, because I'm curious to know, Terry.
Well, and believe it or not, also, here's what it is. In many senses, this all boils down to self-worth, self-opinion, and the things we'll do when we are not feeling confident, we're not feeling strong, and the situations we'll tolerate because of it. And that's what we're taking a stand for. Yeah, because we'll tolerate it because, I'm not smart. And it really boils down to,
I'll settle in relationships because, I'm not good enough to get the one I really want. And
she'll never. I mean, that was, it's funny. I shared in our over the weekend the one thing that someone had said before we had our first date opportunity. I had shared a picture that you had from like your radio show or whatever, and
this was like 10 years ago.
The person's like, "Oh, she's too much for you," and it. Like there was a part where you go, "Oh my gosh, maybe she's right. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not talented enough. Maybe I'm not, I'm not going to have enough stuff. I got to make sure I show up."
I don't like stuff.
Well, what do you mean? We have stuff.
We do have stuff. But like I said, I didn't marry you for your stuff or for your money. I married you because of your heart, your values, your tenacity, your persistence. I mean, I had never felt more loved. And ironically, I still had the flaws, right? When I met you, I still was wrestling with my own insecurities. I mean, all those years ago, it's been a journey for me to overcome them, but you radically accepted me just the way that I was. And we gave each other the gift of that radical acceptance. Yeah. It's really funny because, in another life, I worked for a company called LA Weight Loss. We had 800 locations around the world, and I was like their trainer for like 300 of those locations, right? So I helped hundreds of thousands of women lose weight, right? And they would come in one after the other and talk about how their weight impacts every single area of their life. They're not intimate with their husband. They're not able to go after the things they want and have the confidence. They take some 40 minutes to get dressed in the morning. We go through all these things, and the program worked, and I could help them lose the weight, right? It was a good product. They lost the weight, but what do you think would happen? Over time, and this, if you've been like me or like with these women, the weight would come back on because that's a Band-Aid on a flesh wound sometimes, right? Because we're looking for, if I just lose 20 pounds, then I'll feel like I want to put myself out there. If I just make this X amount of money, but what you see is you lose 20 pounds, then you want to lose 30. You make $500,000, you want to make $1 million. You start, it's just this never ending. Here's the crazy thing. When you actually start to radically accept who you are and how you are as you are, and you live in gratitude for the body that you have, and you live in gratitude for the things or the stuff that you have, even if it's not where you want to be, more comes in. What did it for me with my weight, really? The breakthrough that I really needed? Pregnancy. I had no control.
Yep.
And for a woman like me, like, oh, can I just not eat carbs before 7? All these kind of things. Right. I got pregnant.
Can't keto your way out of pregnancy.
I couldn't keto my way out of my pregnancy, girl. So how much weight did I gain?
80 pounds.
80 pounds. I gained 80 pounds.
That's 2 of Elevie now.
Lord have mercy. Because I had been so kind of regimented in my eating that all of a sudden I'm eating like fruit and all these other things. It just came on. And I remember I was in the shower. I think I told this to you. About that, about that thing in the shower. So I was in the shower and I was getting undressed and caught myself in the mirror. And I had like a nervous breakdown. I was like, whose body is this? It was like,
you had an alien in you.
Cellulite was coming from places that I hadn't. And this is a girl who had worked really hard, right, to overcome. But it all came rushing back because I got out of control, and so, but I wasn't really healed. I was controlling my weight. I was like managing, but I wasn't really as healthy mentally and spiritually as I needed to be. And I got in that shower and I was like lamenting my body. I was like, damn, look at this. It's disgusting. I was like calling myself. And then all of a sudden the light bulb went off and it was like, ding. And it was like, holy crap. Do you want your daughter to be carrying your grandchild and staring in the mirror and cursing the body that's doing it? Like, is that the message that you want to deliver to her? And suddenly I just got so rushed with gratitude. And I was like, oh my God, thank you, belly, for growing out the way you need to. Thank you, butt, for expanding wide so you can sit me down when I need to sit and take a rest. Thank you, tree trunks, for carrying me through But you know what came out of that, which was really cool, is at the time we were still over at Palm, so I was running women's groups and all these body issues, right? So I developed a meditation. You're going to actually help me do, because you're a hypnotherapist, you're going to really help me deepen that meditation. But it takes women on this journey of, appreciating every single part of their body. Our legs are not a show for somebody to like, ooh, they walk you through your life. What have your legs walked you through in your life, right? No matter how much pounds are on them, right? Your stomach, what your gut lives in there, your intelligence, right? So what is that gut instinct had you to do in your life, right? Your arms that you don't like because you've got them. Who do they hug? Who do they hold, right? So all these things that we need to reframe.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, and that's the thing, excuse me. And it's also about noticing it, right? As you shared, is taking that moment to notice it. And awareness is so key, right? Awareness is not to sound cliche, awareness is the first step to change, but there's truth to that, because you can't change something you're not aware of and you're not accepting. Right. And that's where the dance comes in, right? Mm-hmm. So we catch ourselves, and then we go, oh, aha, to be expected. So we go, oh, I'm feeling that. And then if we can really start unpacking is just appreciating what that's there for, then we can start doing it.
Sure.
Right.
Like in the moment, it's to deepen, because we were talking about at our event that like success isn't a straight line. It's really like a circular kind of motion upward. Or
it's just squiggly.
It's squiggly, but we're always kind of circling back around to our issues. But as we grow in our life, we're circling back around with a higher quality problem, right? At first you might have, trust be an issue for you in your life, and you start to accomplish that, and you learn how to like trust somebody else, and you let a relationship in. Then you handle that. Then trust comes in because you're going to start a business. Oh, you need to learn how to master trust again. Then you're going to have a baby. Oh, you need to learn how to trust your body. So you're always deepening your understanding of the thing. Right?
Or
to mastery, from like beginner to apprentice to master. And that's the path.
Right. And it's all internal. And that's where the irony lies, is that so often we're looking to the external. How are we going to look for everyone to know that I'm confident? How am I, what's my bank account going to look like? What car am I driving? What watch am I wearing? What bag am I carrying to exemplify the confidence or the lack of insecurity? And here's what's interesting. So many times you'll see people who from the outside looking in appear to have all the things that, you would want. And then you talk to them a little bit, and sometimes you'll find out they're just as insecure and have just as many
it this morning.
Issues, that.
Can I just tell you that I did what you're talking about this morning? This is how we're constantly evolving, right? I'm going to demonstrate for you. Okay. Just hand it for me.
Oh, she's getting
I'm going to
props.
Show you. I'm getting props.
Props.
Okay, this is the facts, okay? So these are the facts. This is, I'm going to a thing today that I have to go to, right? And I'm going to meet new people. This is the bag that I actually love. This is an old leather, probably like 70s school backpack that somebody would carry at a college campus, right? Like, this is me. And this is my backpack. This is like, oh yeah, like backpack. I like this, right? But so I was like, oh, packing up my backpack for today, and this is what I was carrying. But then I had a moment where I was like, oh no, I'm going to that event. Let me carry the Louis. Like, so it's like a perfect example of like, am I carrying this purse because did I switch my bag because I want somebody else to go, oh, she's got a nice purse, or does this match my outfit better? And I feel good in it. It matches my outfit today. But I had a conversation with myself. Yeah. I literally stopped myself. I know it sounds kind of trite maybe, right? Okay. But it's a point. I stopped myself in the moment, and I was like, who am I doing this for? Who am I doing this for?
Well,
am I dressing up for me, or am I dressing up for you? Am I carrying this because I like it? Am I driving this car because I feel like me in this car? Or am I driving this car because I think it'll make you like me?
So it's both, right? So here, because it's okay either way. That's the other thing. Like, don't, it depends. And also depending on what you're doing, there's an element of, if you, not in this case, but if you're, work a lot with real estate agents, and very often they will have nice cars, they will have the nice bag, they will put on an air of success, real or not, because people want to do business with successful people. There's an element, and it's unfortunate that that's the world we live in. It just is. So there's an awareness to that, and that's okay. Like, I'm not making anybody wrong for carrying a bag or not, and there's multiple reasons to it, but ultimately it's to feel good. It's to feel confident for yourself.
So what do you like?
Right. So interesting.
Whatever you like.
This came up actually yesterday. I was at a networking event, and there was some different conversations, and one of them was about, you know, appearance and so forth, and the efforts that some people go through to do it. And I remember years ago I was modeling as I was getting into radio.
You were a model?
I guess I was a model.
You were modeling.
I'm like Zoolander. I have one look.
Somebody should do a still shot of that. I wish Kevin was listening, because he always still shots on my trainings.
So anyway, so I was modeling D, and when I say model, it's an NLP term where you unpack someone's success formula, like what it takes for someone to be a master at what they do. Mm-hmm. And at the time I was getting into radio, and D still does, but he had a show in New York, but he lived in Long Island. The show was in Connecticut. He lived on Long Island. And his studio was in his basement. Like, his studio was in his basement. The show, though, actually was broadcast in Connecticut. And the other people on the show, like, it was kind of like what we're doing, like a couple people, or like Howard Stern or whatever, where there's like a gaggle of people. But he was in his basement. So then what happened, while we were talking, he goes through his whole thing, and it was like these, you know, 7 musts, right? Like this must happen, then this must happen, then this must happen. And a lot of it was going over mindset and preparation and so forth. And as we're going, like, number 5 was get dressed in his rock gear.
Oh, right. I remember you telling me this. Yeah.
And then as I'm recalibrating, going back, just making sure this is right, we get to the getting your rock clothes. And he goes, whoa, no, stop. That's number 1. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm going to throw number 1. And I read it back to him, and he's like, that's it. I was like, interesting. I said, you know, so, and then I started unpacking more. Why, you know, like, what does all this mean to you? Yada, yada, yada. Why is it in this order? And he said, he's like, I could do the show in my underwear. It's in my house. I could walk out of bed, down to the basement to the studio. No one would know what I'm wearing, but I know what I'm wearing, and I can't be D. Snyder without my rock gear. And now he can, that's not what he meant, but he went with, it enhances it. It gives him
helps me feel like me.
It gives him the edge.
Yeah.
And he said that he shared some experiences where he would actually, this even gets even deeper. He would talk, like, as they were on the show, there's one time when he was saying, like, like, oh, whip me or whatever, it's just some serious, really important stuff. But he said, and I got up on the wall and I put my hands up, I stuck my ass out, and I pretended they were whipping me as I was doing through this. And it was just sharing about how much he was able to get into the necessary mindset, the confidence, and the first thing he had to do was get dressed in the clothes that was congruent, right? So then back to the bag.
Yeah.
That may be congruent with how you want to show up in that environment.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what's really interesting. And this is like a deeper dive and maybe a little bit off subject, but not same subject, but off your
Squirrel.
point. Yeah. I can tell you, after like 20 years of wrestling with my weight and being on that roller coaster of like 20 pounds, 40 pounds, 80 pounds, doing that whole thing, that now hear me out, because this is going to sound like, wow, what is she talking about? Maybe some of you already know. You will keep on the weight or keep yourself broke as a form of self-sabotage. Mm-hmm. And you'll think that it's outside influences, that it's something else. But if you do not internally, some people need that extra 20 pounds on because it's a protective mechanism, not for like the standard, like I don't want, all that, but because if I have the 20 pounds on me, that's a reason that I can't be successful. I have a built-in reason. Oh, well, I have the 20 pounds and that's why I'm not really dating that much. And it's the 20 pounds and that's why I got rejected. Oh, it's the 50 pounds and that's why I can't speak or do the thing I want to do. And so it's such a necessary companion to you. The weight is a necessary companion. And so we hate it and we say, God, I hate this weight. No, we love it. because it's our best friend. It protects us. And once we start to reframe these conversations and say, okay, what if I had nothing to prove? What if things in life were meant for me? What if I didn't have to earn it? What if I could just have what I wanted in my life if I was willing to work for it? Would I be willing to release the weight? Would my story go with it? And I can say now, I don't really struggle because weight's not the primary focus for me. Health is my primary focus, wanting to be fully alive in my own skin, wanting to, I don't give myself a reason to feel distracted with self-loathing, right? If I'm distracted with all the ways I hate myself in the morning, it takes me 20 minutes to get dressed, then I'm not focused on what I need to do today, whose life I need to touch, what my bigger purpose is and plan. It's like playing small, right? And so,
and that's interesting, the plan small. So here's a couple things that came up for me. I got to start writing this stuff down because you got on a roll and then I forget too, because I'm like, oh yeah. Okay. So a couple things. One, oftentimes people will say things like, after I earn the money, then I'll start investing. After I lose the weight, then I'll start feeling good and confident. After you have the external experience, then you'll feel
confident enough to do it.
Right. And that's the rub. That's like the joke that is played. That's the dance, because you don't get to have those results unless you are being the person first to go out and get those results, which is why people end up circling back multiple times, because they'll have moments of, okay, do that. And by the way, that's fine. That's normal. It's completely natural because they're confidence builders. The little steps that Heidi's talking about, those little shifts, they compound, right? And that's why investing, like for those of you who are familiar with any sort of investment program, what is the basic tenet? Pay who first? Pay yourself first. You've got to put, even if it's just a tiny bit, into your financial freedom fund, whatever that is. Do it consistently, even because here's the thing. If you don't do it when you have $100, it's going to be a lot harder to do when you have $1,000, when you have $10,000, when you have $1 million, if you're not in the habit of doing it. And this is something that we've been practicing, why we're able to experience and create certain things, because the one thing that we've always been doing is just in doing that little investment in time, investment in money, investment in effort, investment in all sorts of things. But it's because we're not going, oh, well, because that's the thing, our first property, there's a lot of insecurity around that too. Like, oh my gosh, like, okay, we've been talking about, I don't know if this is you. Have you ever talked about something for years, one day, someday, and expecting the world to be like all the planets to align just right for you to be able to make that step, take that investment, take that step, make that investment. And then finally got to the point where we were like, enough's enough. We're just going to have to do it and figure it out.
Every time we've invested in a property, and we're not selling you property investment, okay? We're just talking about it. But every time we've invested in a property, bought a new place, or done whatever, it has been a monumental risk. My heart beats. I go, oh, can we really do this? We don't really have what we need to be able to do this. How are we going to make this happen? But that's the feeling that you're on the right track if you're like making progress, because you're supposed to feel like sweaty. You're supposed to feel like a little nervous, like, oh God, can we really? We don't wait to hold a seminar until we know we can fill the room. We hold the seminar and then the room fills. We don't feel confident that, oh, we're going to put this out and you guys are going to like that. We just do it because it's in our spirit or on our heart or in our wheelhouse to do it, right? And so that's the thing, is the difference.
It's also the leading by example.
Leading, from within and saying, so look, if that's you and you've had this story around your insecurities, whether it be your finances, well, that's nice for them. They know how to do that, but that's not me. We are you. Like, oh, that's nice. She is able to do, but the reality is like, that's us. Right. So,
and that's,
reach out. This
is actually what we do. What we teach, that dance, is that we teach you how to access that confidence, that certainty, the necessary things that internally,
and I don't really
to
share
get the
this.
results.
I don't really share this, okay, ever, because I just don't. I was not like, the reason that people work with me and you is because of our confidence. Ultimately, that's why people say, I want to do what you do, or I want to have it. So I want to be infused with your belief, right? my journey to getting to the place where I can be fully self-expressed and fully myself was friggin' traumatic. Okay. Every voice in my head, mine and otherwise, you're stupid. You're never going to be able to do that. You are fat. You are disgusting. And just being kind of inundated with this story and this voice. When I talk to you about like overcoming these, self-sabotage things, like to line up, say, yeah, let me prove I am unworthy. Let me keep that weight on. Let me prove I can't. I could cry talking about it because it's like, so I understand it's like ingrained, especially if you come from a background where people are saying to you, no, you're right. You are stupid. You are ugly. You'll never do it. You owe it to yourself at this point of your life to shut that friggin' tape off, right? And learn how to be the master of your own fate, the captain of your soul, and go after the things that you want to, because I'll tell you what, life's too long not to go after the things that are yours, that are meant for you, right? And they are meant for you. So
and that's
the insecurities
a lot of the work.
Are like just the things that are preventing us from having everything on the other side that we want. And it's our heart's desire to help you annihilate that stuff one at a time. Just break it down, be done. And if you have circles back around in your life again, it's a higher quality problem. Right.
Well, that's the two things. And the two things say what we work on is de-patterning and repatterning. Really, it's like taking that old pattern, scrambling it, and then putting a new one in its place. So that's what we do. And then the other thing is, yes, it's how I often ask this question: how many would enjoy life without problems? How many of you wish you didn't have any problems? And inevitably you get a lot of hands going, yeah, that'd be great, no problems. And here's the challenge, is that if you don't have problems, you're not living, right? So the question is, what kind of problems do you want to have, right? Higher quality problems.
What property to invest in,
right. Or whose
what
couch
program
to crash
to
on.
offer, or how to get out, stop being a prisoner in your own body and your own mind, right? Let's check in with the comments and wrap it up this morning, because we've been on for a long time. I see wow. Okay, let's see here.
Bob is, I don't know if they're still
Good
here.
Good morning. Yes. Good morning. Good morning. Buenos dias.
Kevin.
Have a great day.
Bob, keeping the dream alive. So
Always,
are you, brother.
Miss
you. Terry. It's been huge.
I can't go swimming, wear jeans. I don't like, so it's time. It's time, because all these things that we want to do, and the story in our head, it's like, do you ever look at somebody else who's wearing that and you're the same size, or she's larger than you, and you go, wow, she's rocking that, and she's just like having fun. Wow, look at her playing with her kid on the beach. Wow, look at her on that hot day. Look at her doing all these things. The only thing that's stopping her and you is that she's radically accepting and loving on herself, and not telling herself the story. She doesn't deserve to put on a bathing suit. She doesn't deserve to, because that's what you're saying to yourself. Every time you say, I can't wear a swimsuit, you're saying, I don't deserve to be in a swimsuit. It's like Rosa Parks said, I deserve to sit in the front. Okay. So your color of your skin, the weight of your skin, all of these things are like, that's the root, right? When I feel like a deservedness in my soul, I don't give a shit how much I weigh. Okay. I deserve to be on the planet. When I was wrestling with my eating disorder and my food issues, I would binge. I'm going to take up as much space in the world as I can. And then I would restrict. I don't deserve to be alive. Let me shrink down to nothing. And it's that cycle: binge, restrict, grow, expand, contract. And now it's like we can do that in other ways that aren't so self-sabotaging, right? Expand, go out in the world, and then retreat, come back internally in your spirit and in your soul. That's a conversation for another time. Good morning, D. Snyder, Radio Wrong. Thanks so much for being my voice of reason. Amen, Mama. That's what I'm here for.
And Ellie won't be joining us this morning.
No, because the baby has the flu. Say prayers for her, because she has. Let's do all our healing energy for you guys, for Ellie. So let's just take a minute and just put out some good vibes for this conversation today, because if you can let that sink in, we're just going to know that you're on the track to wholeness, fullness, knowing your true value and your true worth, and that you're going to allow these words to resonate and sink in, and just start to ask your question today. If I was worthy, if I had nothing to prove, what would I do? Who would I be without the story that I can't? All right. We love you so much.
We hope you
have a beautiful day today.
Who you are.
Okay. Bye,
God
guys.
Bless.